So, what's on your mind?
It's just survival games. There's something about them. I don't enjoy playing them. The only times I do enjoy playing them is with friends. I don't know what to do.
Let's see. How about we make a list of what you don't like about survival games?
Alright, well I guess the first thing would be the grind. Now, one big part about survival games is crafting. And I'm not against this mechanic, but sometimes crafting can be very tedious. Well, not crafting, but the resource gathering. In other words, the grind. Now, gathering materials is good and all, but when you're playing Valheim and you need 6 deer hide for these pants and go exploring for hours and find nothing, it can be frustrating. This isn't bad. Having to search for materials can be fun, but when you need 6 deer hide for clothing, it can be very tedious to get things like armor. Like in Subnautica, in order to get clean water, you need bladderfish. These bladderfish are pretty easy to find, but what I found while playing is when you catch too many, it can be really tough to find more. So I found myself dehydrated, and with not enough resources to make a water filter, I eventually just quit. This kind of leads into my second complaint, which is needs. There are a bunch of needs like hunger, thirst, health, stamina, and temperature that can be in survival games. This isn't necessarily a bad system, but it depends on how it is implemented, which I'll get into later. But when it's implemented poorly, it can feel like a side thing that bugs you every 5 minutes to eat, drink, heal, seek shelter, and so on. And this can be annoying when you're trying to do other things. A way to combat this would be to have the bars drain slowly, so that it feels like a thing that you have to maintain while you explore, craft, build, and fight, rather than something that constantly needs your attention. Another way to combat this would be to do the opposite. Keep the hunger draining as it is, but make sure it's the main part of the game. The purpose is to stay alive. The purpose is to keep these bars in check. Maybe this is just because of my playstyle, but when there are so many systems and things you can do, it feels like this mechanic becomes secondary. And the management side of the game can, in my opinion, clash with the open world and base building. Like when you're trying to build the base and you have to eat. No problem, I'll just grab some... Oh, darn it, my food is rotten.
What you doing with that rotten piece of meat, boy?
So, the game wants me to stop every 10 minutes, kill something nearby, start a fire, and then eat it to gain 25% hunger. Alright, time to go back to building... I need a drink. Like, the management side of games is fine, but when it's preventing me from doing something else in the game, it just gets annoying in my opinion. Now, I haven't played a whole lot of survival games, but one I have played is,
What the muck? Where my muck is at? Muck. What is muck?
Now this is a game made by Danny, and you might think this is a joke game made by another YouTuber in a couple of months because survival game go brrr, but it does something interesting. It combines survival and roguelike. This is interesting because roguelike games usually have relatively short playtime before you die and start all over with nothing. And the grind I was mentioning earlier might hinder that, right? I mean, it does. You're having a really good run and then all of a sudden...
Dinner's ready! Get the f*** out of my room and play Minecraft!
And I wish I could just save and go back to it later. But I think the roguelike actually complements their survival experience in my opinion. Because the game is played in these runs, there's not a lot of time spent base building. I mean, there's not a lot of options for base building anyway. But even if you do build something beautiful, it gets destroyed the next night. This causes you to try to optimize runs and focus on the management of hunger and such things rather than it feeling like a hindrance. Exploration is an essential part of the survival experience. Whether it's new sites, resources, items, or locations, but there's one thing that I think can hinder this if not done correctly. Base building. Let's look at Minecraft. Minecraft is an infinitely procedural world, thousands of different blocks, items, biomes. But once you settle down, you might stop exploring a lot. And then when you do go exploring, your inventory gets full rather quickly. What a bummer, because Minecraft has so many things to explore, but the game makes it so hard to do so. Like, think about all the things you need in Minecraft. Storage, crafting a table, campfires, furnaces. All these things prevent you from going out and exploring the infinite world of Minecraft. Think of how many other survival games have this. Now this is fine in a lot of other games, but Minecraft has such a large amount of biomes, blocks, and items to discover that it's kind of annoying trying to find these things. And when you die and respawn 500,000 blocks from your death, it can be infuriating.
Inventory.
For some reason, this one just doesn't really bother me a whole lot, except for Minecraft, which I explained a bit while talking about exploration. Instead of talking more about the most famous game in the world, which people just haven't talked enough about already, I want to talk a bit more about the forest and how I think they handled inventory very well. In the forest, you have this cool looking 3D inventory, and there's a place for everything here. It might take a while to find things, but you'd be surprised at how many items can fit in this cool looking inventory. When I say there's a place for everything, I mean it. You got your places for meat, weapons, sticks, rocks, pelts, snacks, bows, arrows, and etc. This means that one item type is not going to crowd the inventory for another item type. Every item type has its place, and you can store a decent amount of these. This is great because you don't have to worry about throwing one item out for another. Instead, you only have to worry about how many of that type you can carry.
So, what do you think you've concluded from this?
Well, survival games take up time. Time to upgrade, time to build, time to craft, and ultimately complete the game, which can take lots of time and dedication. Survival games are also about management. These management systems, whether it's hunger or inventory, can feel like a hindrance or an obstacle, when what I want to do is build, explore, or fight. So maybe it's not survival games. Maybe it's me. But that makes me wonder, what would my perfect survival game be? For this concept, I'm going to have the main focuses of the game be 1, exploration, and 2, management. Now, to lean into the exploration, I'm going to get rid of building. But we do have to cook food and sleep somehow. I'll have a couple of buildable things like a campfire and a little sleeping place that's easily craftable so as not to be annoying to craft every day, and probably disappears after use. As for the management, I will lean into this. Food will still rot, but very slowly, as to not encourage stocking up on meat so much. Either that, or limit the amount of space for meat. You know, I think I'll go with that second idea there. This means that we'll have an inventory system much like the forest, which I like. The main game loop for this imaginary game would be hunting and eating to keep that hunger bar up, and then fight and maybe defeat some bosses. I think this will be the main way of getting armor and items to craft new weapons. So you have to hunt and prepare for dungeons and boss fights, and that rewards you with better protection and better ways to hunt. Anyway, what do you think of this game idea? Is it good or is it bad? Would you play it? Or maybe you're the type of person who already likes survival games in the first place.